you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. It's August 5th on Tuesday. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit right there. Don't forget to follow PBD at PBD News. Okay. Look, it is what it is. I was up all night. All right. I was watching the RNC. Forgot I had a brisket in the smoker. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, it's the polo shirt day today. All right. Look, here's the pundit's perspective. Real good take last night. Takeaway from last night. The Republicans kicked off the national convention. I don't think anybody was expecting this. You always have kind of moderate expectations for day one of anybody's convention, right? But for people who don't know this, Republicans did not have as much time as Democrats to prepare for what essentially is a virtual convention. Okay? They certainly didn't have the help of Hollywood. There is no other way to put this. It's day one. Granted, there's 3 days to go, but this wasn't even close. As far as what a convention needs to do, a good convention, a successful convention, this was by far way better and way more effective than the Democratic National Convention. Even Republicans, and folks, for those of you who are new to politics, you maybe don't know, but all of the people talking with last night, it's Republicans. They are not used to their party doing this good, right, Laura? Amen. In a convention. All right. It was, and this is why it was good. First of all, they introduced Trump's justification again, which I told you it's important. The Democrats, they were lost last night in their talking points. I mean, Donna Brazile had a meltdown on Fox News. It made no sense. It was a rambling response about, I really like watching Republican conventions because, for the ones I get to see Republicans be, I think inclusive, but I got Republicans in my family. She had no idea what to say because Act Blue did not, and Media Matters did not pass off the talking points. They were not expecting such a good convention. So they weren't able to get those talking points out quick enough. And Democrats were floundering for about an hour, 2 hours on television until they finally settled on some ridiculous attempt to paint the Republican convention as what their convention was, dark and dystopic, is what the word that we've heard numerous times. That's, of course, if you watched it, ludicrous. The theme of the convention was positive. It was upbeat. And another thing, an effective convention has got to answer the critics. Republicans could not ignore COVID. Trump could not ignore COVID. We're going to look at some clips. And I chose these clips not because they're the best speeches, although many of them are. I mean, some of them are the greatest speeches of the night. It was because this is what answered the main talking points from Democrats last week on day one. And they essentially, Laura, I mean, they checked off the checklist on day one. They did. I mean, now they need to keep this going because you don't want to stall. You don't want momentum to stall. But the difference was the darkness in the Democrats. You know, we're in a dark period. America's a dark place versus greatness that Trump sees America and the Republicans see America. Rational policy choices were given last night. In other words, what do we talk about, right? For guys and girls who are new here, you have to tell American voters and you have to tell Americans why you need to vote for them. They need to vote for you. What are you going to do to make my life better, to make my community better, a better place to live, a safer place to live, to make my children's future a little brighter? Democrats didn't focus on any of that. All right, folks, whether you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, it is not really in question. They didn't even try. Their focus was the convention to shame you. If you vote for Donald Trump and Republicans, you are a bad person. The word dignity came up countless times, and it was a lot about this, fine people hoax, this race. I mean, Michelle Obama repeated it. Joe Biden repeated it. Republicans answered back this charge of racism, and they did it. Here's the thing. Here's what made this night so effective. They made a rational policy argument, but they did it with human interest stories, personal human interest stories. Perfect example is Andrew Pollack. We all know Andrew, okay, from Parkland. His daughter tragically lost her life in the shooting at Parkland. Now, this is about restorative justice. This is an actual policy that, Democrats and the media, which he issued a stunning indictment on them. This is an issue. This is a policy. They went right to the Second Amendment, the Democrats and the media. And Andrew said, no, you guys missed the boat. This was preventable. Our Second Amendment is a right. It's a right of all of us. It would never have prevented this. All of these policies. It was restorative justice, which was a social justice warrior policy. Joe Biden supports reinstating it. All right. And the policies that enabled restorative justice, which led to this man, this boy, which I won't, if Andrew's not going to repeat his name, I'm not, which led to the unfettered access this crackpot had to these kids. And by the way, the FBI was too busy climbing up telephone poles outside of Trump Tower to find this guy.
There you go.
Not doing their damn job. Sheriff Scott Israel, I mean, the guy's a total crook, right? But none of that. These are people who fail. They are failures. And they went and found somewhere else to look, to cast blame, to point the blame. And I mean, really, I can't put it any better than him. I'm actually going to let this roll a little bit.
I learned that gun control laws didn't fail my daughter. People did. The gunman had threatened to kill his classmates before. He had threatened to rape them. He had threatened to shoot up the school. Every red flag you could imagine. But the school didn't just miss these red flags. They knowingly ignored them. Far-left Democrats in our school district made this shooting possible because they implemented something they called restorative justice. This policy, which really just blames teachers for students' failures, puts kids and teachers at risk and makes shootings more likely. But it was billed as a pioneering approach to discipline and safety. I was just fine with the old approach to discipline and safety. It was called discipline and safety. But the Obama-Biden administration took Parkland's bad policies and forced them into schools across America. When President Trump rescinded Obama's guidance on restorative justice policies, he put an end to that. And that meant the world to me. It's hard to tell how much Mr. Biden understands about what happened at Parkland. Mr. Biden has campaigned on bringing back restorative justice as part of his unity platform with Bernie Sanders, and has pledged to implement it in school districts across America. But he doesn't even seem to know when the shooting happened. He said that he was vice president when it happened, but he wasn't. Mr. Biden may not know when my daughter was murdered, but I do. February 14, 2018. Mr. Biden may not know that these policies make shootings more likely, but I do. Mr. Biden may not know who was vice president that day, but I do. It wasn't Joe Biden. It was Mike Pence. Thank God. And I know who the president was, too. It wasn't Barack Obama. It was President Donald J. Trump, and he took action. I truly believe the safety of our kids depends on whether this man is reelected. I hope you'll join me in helping to make that happen. Mr. President, myself and millions of Americans appreciate you and love you. God bless America, and God bless our president, Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
Okay, see the difference there? That was a rational policy argument. This is how he made our community safer. This is how he's going to make our children safer. This is how Joe Biden and the Democratic policies resulted in the death of my daughter. That is a rational policy argument, but it was made with human interest stories, and personal emotion. He conveyed it. I mean, it was very powerful. I truly believe the safety of our children is at stake when we need to reelect this man. Okay? Listen, that is a far cry from what we saw at the Democratic National Convention. Andrew Pollock's speech was one of the most powerful of the night. It was a far cry, which was, look, folks, I mean, you may believe some of the stuff they tell you about Donald Trump. You may believe that he said white supremacists are very fine people, but it's not true. You know what is true? Andrew Pollock's daughter is dead because of bad policies and incompetent politicians. And it's clear the justification Trump is having here is, I always said that really what makes it tough for him, he's an incumbent, and all incumbents have to say, stick with me. Stick with me. Don't rock the boat. Stick with me. Let's keep moving forward together. But his is difficult because his enemies are rocking the boat. His political enemies are rocking the boat, and Americans don't like that. So his job is, stick with me. You elected me to do this, to shake it up. This is what change looks like. Don't give in to them. Number one, because we're making progress. Don't let them win. And number two, because they'll freaking hurt you if you do. They will hurt you. All right. And so, again, Joe Biden, and this is why I'm going to play the speech next. Joe Biden, speaking of the fine people hoax, he said in his campaign announcement video that his justification for running, the final straw, was when he saw Donald Trump say that white supremacists and neo-Nazis are very fine people. That is a dangerous and horrible lie. I'm not going to go over the transcript again. Stop watching the edited videos if you still believe it. It's worse than a regular political lie because it's a dangerous lie. It's one that leads to racial strife and violence. Anyway, every point made, this was rebutted, which is always what it must be done. But that was Joe Biden's justification. He said it in his announcement video, and then in his acceptance speech at the convention, he repeated it. Michelle Obama, she spoke about it too on her night, which was what, night one. All right. This was, and I'm going to play the whole speech. This was extremely effective. And I have to be honest, I get these transcripts before these events. I send them to me, get the transcripts before the events. And I read this speech And I said, you know what? The content is all right. I just don't see how he's going to deliver it in a powerful way. I know what they're trying to do. And just, maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. He knocked it out of the park. Here's Herschel Walker.
I'm not an actor, a singer, or a politician. I'm Herschel Walker. Most of you know me as a football player, but I'm also a father, a man of faith, and a very good judge of character. I've known Donald Trump for 37 years, and I don't mean just casual ran into him from time to time. I'm talking about a deep personal friendship. I watched him as an owner of a professional football team. Right after he bought the team, he set out to learn. He learned about the history of the team, the players, the coaches, every detail. Then he used what he learned to make the team better. I watched him in the boardroom. He can be in the middle of a big meeting, but if one of the kids was on the phone, he dropped everything to take the call. He taught me that the family should be your top priority. I watched him treat janitors, security guards, and waiters the same way he would treat a VIP. He made them feel special because he knew they were. He understands that they are the people who make this country run. They clean, they cook, they build, they drive, they deliver. He told me, Herschel, make an effort to get to know people. Remember their names. That stuck with me. One time, I planned to take his kids to Disney World with my family. At the last minute, Donald said he'd like to join us. So there he was, in a business suit, on It's a Small World ride. That was something to see. It just shows you what a caring, loving father he is. It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. People who think that don't know what they're talking about. Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. Just because someone loves and respects the flag, our national anthem, and our country, doesn't mean they don't care about social justice. I care about all those things. So does Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the black community through his actions. And his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. He keeps right on fighting to improve the lives of black Americans and all Americans. He works night and day. He never stops. He leaves nothing on the field. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks down obstacles that get in the way of his goals. People on the opposing team didn't like when I ran over them either. But that's how you get the job done. I pray every night that God gives him more time. Give him 4 more years. He has accomplished so much almost all by himself on a constant attack. But there's still more work to be done. If you love America and want to make it better, Donald Trump is your president. He's my president. And I'm blessed to call him friend.
That, of course, was meant to refute the accusation that Donald Trump is a racist. All right, which we've been over these. I'm not gonna rehash this crap. We've been over them before. We've gone. I mean, from the jump, they've lied about this man. Came down the escalator. I will never forget that, Laura. Actually, look, for those of you who don't know, I am married to a Hispanic woman. All right, and I watched that speech, and I think it's fair to say she's a bit more conservative than me. I think that's fair to say, and I know what her position is, and in fact, from polling, I know what most Hispanic Americans' position on illegal immigration is, and it's not what the woke white media class thinks or projects on them. So I remember that speech, and I remember when I listened to my own ears, and then the headlines afterwards. What the hell speech were they listening to? That, of course, evolved to all Mexicans are rapists, right? None of that was ever true. It wasn't true. It just, this is what, look, you can take take it out of context, but they've hammered it and hammered it and hammered it. And the reason why they have, and you can read it right in WikiLeaks yourself, folks, John Podesta talking with his friends. They did this and they had help from the media because they were terrified Donald Trump was a celebrity and that and in the beginning, as a pollster, I could tell you, his appeal was not ideological. It was attitudinal. So if you were a working class black man, you're like, you know what? I kind of see what he's talking about. Why isn't anybody else saying this? Guy, I hate political correctness, right? That's how it was. It was very different than it is now, where they tried to put him in a very traditional box with other Republican candidates. right? Where you are, it's a right versus left, a white versus black, a white versus everyone, minority, black and brown, whatever. That was a very powerful speech by Herschel Walker to refute that, knowing Donald Trump as a person for 37 years, something like that, whatever it was. So long-term relationship on Twitter, which makes it worse for the Democrats. When something like this happens, and then these white blue check mark verified Twitter accounts start attacking a black man who's freely thinking on his own. They're walking right into it. Americans know what they hear. Americans know what they see. Pretending like reality, it can work in the 24-hour news cycle, but it cannot work during something like this, which is essentially a 4-day infomercial. That's an accurate description of what a convention is. It's a 4-day infomercial where they're trying to sell you their candidate and their policy platform. Last week, we got no policy. We got a lot of nice stories about Joe Biden, which, by the way, you're going to see. There was some. I will answer, look, on the issue, what is restorative justice? All right, what Andrew Pollack was talking about. All right, so traditionally, the American justice system, I don't think it's fair to say it just focuses on punishment, okay? It focuses on personal responsibility. People who know me will tell you, I am all for second chances. There was only one perfect man. He walked the earth 2,000 years ago and was crucified. All right? That's it. There is people make mistakes and they deserve second chances, whatever kind of chances sometimes it takes, depending on the crime, of course, right? And the gravity of the crime. Restorative justice blames society. The philosophy itself blames society for crime. It sees crime as a flaw in society. What something with the system is wrong, and something is wrong with human relationships, how we're interacting with each other. Therefore, instead of it focusing on personal responsibility and redemption, which builds character, by the way, instead of focusing on personal responsibility, paying your debt to society, and redemption, that long, hard road to redemption, to being a better man or a better woman, they focus on mitigation. So a victim is pretty much put on par with the offender. So it's more like mitigation efforts instead of punitive justice. All right. And that of course can lead to, because if you don't see the crime itself as a necessarily damaging event, you see it as a byproduct of a bad society, then it leads to all sorts of policies that enable these people, like Andrew Pollack said, this guy had a long history. Instead of punishing him, instead of making him, go through the criminal justice system and start walking on that long, hard road to redemption, it cradled and coddled his criminality. And when a force like that is not met with resistance, they just keep going and going. It's human nature. And that's the problem with restorative justice. It fundamentally misunderstands human nature, the more darker, sadder aspects to who we are as human beings. If you are not met with resistance and punished and meant to see the error in your ways, you will regress and get progress. You'll regress as a person, but your acts, your criminality will progress into more serious offenses. Now, again, everybody, this is America. Wyatt Earp, the greatest lawman in the West, was a horse thief and a drunk. All right. If he didn't get a second chance, he would never be the famous lawman we know today. Actually, he got like 5 chances. Wyatt Earp. They were going to hang him for horse thieving. And in the end, he took responsibility. Restorative justice pulls personal responsibility out of the whole equation. So it's not just a simple policy. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. It results, it ends up in policies that enable these criminals to walk around the way this guy was able to walk around. The school did not see him as a threat. They saw him as somebody they should put their arm around and tell, you know what, we're here for you. You're going to be okay. They didn't, because of the mindset, they didn't see the threat that he was, and that their responsibility was to the protection of those children. It's like making a guidance counselor an entire bureaucracy. And by the way, if we defund the police in some of these urban neighborhoods, soon coming to a suburban neighborhood near you, coming to a suburb near you, if we defund these police, this will be what they mean when they say we're going to defund the police and we're going to replace them with social services. This is what they're talking about. This is the kind of mitigation efforts instead of a justice system. They'll get a social worker instead of a cop. Somebody instead of holding them to their own responsibility. And again, sending them down that long, hard, but worthwhile road of redemption. They'll get a friend. They'll get a social worker who's going to tell them it's all going to be okay. It's more of a philosophy than a policy, but it unfortunately resulted in he's a better guy than I am. Well, I'm not going to say my daughter's name because some of you trolls are freaking nuts. All right. If our daughter, if this ever I can't imagine the pain. I don't think it's really imaginable. And I'll tell you right now, he's a better man than me. I am not that good of a Christian. I'm just not.
You're honest.
I would have taken it out of Sheriff Israel's.
Yeah.
Like that would be the way I'd handle it. That's it. I'm going to make you suffer because my little girl is gone. Andrew Pollock is a much better man than I am. All right. But anyway, so that was obviously meant for that. Again, Herschel Walker, he was there, though, to speak about Donald Trump, the man. Now, one thing that they absolutely could not do was run away from coronavirus. They just Donald Trump cannot do it. He needs to take it head on. And during the convention last week, Joe Biden really and the Democrats, they opened up some real vulnerabilities because Joe Biden, the economy's tanked because of him, because he didn't act quick enough. He didn't get the coronavirus he didn't get it under control. There's a problem with that argument, and the problem is the timeline and the facts. Joe Biden's own pandemic response advisory team had made comments when Donald Trump was doing things like issuing bans, travel bans that, we're going to hear the response to that in a second. When he was taking action. When he first signed an executive order to get rapid testing started, right? Because most people don't seem to understand this system was not set up for this, all right? And coronaviruses are different, unlike other things. There are different forms and types of coronaviruses. So it wasn't like you could just go and get a kit. And the CDC has rules for a reason because you can't just go buy the kits from the Koreans and the Chinese because they don't work. They're garbage. Shocker. The rest of the world lies a lot. So do we, but the rest of the world lies a lot. So that's why there is that CDC regulation and rule in place. When Donald Trump was doing that, Joe Biden's team was basically saying that this is like a flu. And then, they gradually evolved. Donald Trump Jr., first of all, he defended his father on a number of these issues, the key charges Democrats have made against his father, but he also did something that a convention really needs to do. Rally the base. Donald Trump's base loves his son. Donald Trump Jr. is the face of Trumpism in the new generation. So, in the new generation kind of thing, right? So, for those of you who haven't seen it, when the campaign ramps up, I know this is a quasi kind of election, but when the campaign ramps up, I'll tell you what, it's Trump Jr. who people really are like dying to see speak. When Trump himself is not there. So trotting out Donald Trump Jr. and having him make some of these, he had some really good lines.
Nessie.
The Loch Ness monster of the swamp. Joe Biden is basically the Loch Ness monster of the swamp. Was a fantastic line. But again, rational policy arguments. This is in defense of his father.
The president quickly took action and shut down travel from China. Joe Biden and his Democrat allies called my father a racist and a xenophobe for doing it. They put political correctness ahead of the safety and security of the American people. Fortunately, as the virus began to spread, the president acted quickly and ensured ventilators got to hospitals that needed them most. He delivered PPE to our brave frontline workers. and he rallied the mighty American private sector to tackle this new challenge. There's more work to do, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, that was a great line. There's more work to do, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I will go back now and harken back to Barack Obama, who had a magical convention in 2012. Whether you guys like him or not, I'm sure most of you do not. That is irrelevant from an objective point of view. He knocked it out. The whole entire convention knocked it out of the park, and Bill Clinton was so effective. A lot of people talk about Bill Clinton's speech, Laura. The reason why it was is because Bill Clinton was a president who presided over a strong economy. Barack Obama was not. He had the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. Bill Clinton had some credibility there when he said, this is what I would do if I was in office. If I was in office during this moment, this is what I would do. And the reason it had such credibility is, of course, he had a great period of prosperity in the 1990s. Even though Bill Clinton is really one of the major reasons why we had a financial crisis. I mean, it's just true. I mean, he put his pen to the paper on one of the major policies that did collapse the economy. All right. But that is ultimately why. And what did he make the argument that Barack Obama and the convention were trying to make? We know there's work to do, but we're making progress. Stick with us. Move forward. And that was the singular word used to describe the theme of that convention. That was his slogan, forward. All right. And that's what, look, it was magical. Barack Obama was in 2012. It was a magical speech. He understood that there were people who voted for him in 2008 that would not vote for him again. It was a matter of how many of them there would be because he had such a big victory. So he had to convince those people, stick with me, move forward. Donald Trump Jr. just did that for his father when he said, there's more work to be done, but we're making tremendous progress. Keep moving forward. That is what you got to do. All right, let's bring Laura in real quick. What's up? What do you got?
I just want to say that I love how the RNC really dispelled the darkness with the light. They kept making that contrast, and it was beautiful because, all it takes is one flicker of light to dispel darkness, and they gave you that hope, and it was just beautiful.
And that was the theme. If you guys look, that was the theme. Let's see. Let's go back. Get you the actual word. It was embargoed. I'm looking at today's. Search thing is all right. Remarks for night one, embargoed. Okay, guys. So the theme was, it's here. I had it. It's here. I had it. And then today, of course, again, they're going to continue that, right? So what they tried to do was really bring in the positive, whereas Democrats were extremely negative, saw the country as systemically racist. And this is the thing. Most Americans don't believe that. They don't hate themselves. They don't hate their country. Are there, what's the word? Self-loathing liberals in inner city? Absolutely. That is the textbook of a secular left-wing upper class. Like people always ask me, how could Jewish voters in America vote Democratic? Well, the truth is, folks, they're Jewish by nationality or but they're not faith-based Jews. Secular Jews are liberal, and they vote, in a self-loathing fashion. There's a lot of whites out there too who are a part of the woke class who believe that they are really they should be punished. They feel there's like white guilt, but most Americans don't subscribe to this. They don't. And what Republicans tried to do last night was basically say, it's okay to be you. This country is great because of you. And that was something they did very well last night as well. They just said that Donald Trump understands the greatness of America, but he's not taking sole credit for it. He just understands that it really is the frontline healthcare workers that praised him. By the way, that was another effective segment that went after the Democrats' arguments on COVID. That was extremely effective. And go ahead. We'll go to a break in a second.
It's just like you said, though. He's not taking credit for the greatness of America. He's saying it is you. It is okay to be an American and be proud of it because you are making this America so great.
Yeah.
Not me, like the Democratic convention.
You remember how many times Barack Obama said me in his convention? That's the one thing that, that's the one thing that was not good, but yeah. All right. Let's take a quick 30-second break. When we'll be back, we will finish up with a couple more speeches, and then we're going to talk about a major. I mean, this is when you always know when Democrats are in trouble because, or they act like, because they can't understand. Like, we had Hollywood, we had the handicap, we got the media press corps giving us the handicap. Why am I finding myself in this position? And they get upset, and they don't like, look, somebody like Nancy Pelosi, she does not like to be questioned. She doesn't think she should stoop to the level of the filthy, unwashed masses. She just doesn't. All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter @Peoples_Pundit. Follow PPD @PPD News. Don't forget to subscribe to the page on YouTube if you don't already. All right, Scopers, it's only a matter of time. You really should move over to YouTube because I'm telling you, they already nixed this thing running on PPD. Probably mine will be next. So, I would highly, highly suggest that you roll over to YouTube. All right. So, and then also like the page on Facebook. And if you do watch on Facebook Live and like the page, people say they're getting notified when it goes on. Say People's Pundit Daily is about to, go live with Inside the Numbers at 10 o'clock in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. YouTube, I even checked what you guys were talking about. That absolutely is happening. I get the message late. So that's weird. All right. So anyway, don't forget to do that. And then ultimately, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. We got a lot of economic data after the show that's going to go up. All right. So it will be a big economic calendar day. Subscribers, as you know, you roll through really get all those series indicators and charts. We will never promise that we will cover everything, but we promise what we will cover will be in much better context, much better quality. All right. And without the garbage. All right. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. Folks, a bit of a breaking news. Consumer confidence ticked down in the 80s a little bit. Still not horrible. New home sales. I don't want to put my foot here, the cart before the horse. New home sales, I looked during the break. They exploded. I told you the housing market, we went over. If you missed yesterday's show, you need to go back and look at it. Folks, 901. Holy crap. The consensus, the low end was 735, which is already extremely strong. The high end was 800. The consensus, 774. Last month we saw oh my God. Last month was revised higher to 791. Remember I told you new home sales at that 776 number, that was the highest since July 2007, before the Great Recession. I don't even know how far I got to go back to get this number. I got to see, you know what? I can't, honestly, I can't wait to go look at that. Oh my goodness. Folks, those are big numbers. And what that tells you is, while the consumer sentiment index, consumer confidence, ticking down, I mean, they're still not low, but ticking down a little bit. Ultimately, people would not be buying homes and building. We went over the new residential construction statistics. They wouldn't be building them at the pace they are building them if they thought they weren't going to have a freaking job. All right. This is an amazing development. Holy crap. I never thought before the election we'd see 901. Holy crap. Big number, folks. Big number. I'm such a data nerd. I just want to jump in a chart. I'm such a loser, whatever. But I'm like, I'm all giddy. I completely lost my train of thought. All I want to do is go back to the line chart, Laura. Oh my God. Let's play with the navigator. Wow. But that's what you'll get at PPD. Look, nothing, as for those of you who are just now watching for the first time, nothing goes up. We have never been fact checked in the history of the website. We are not about to be fact checked. It's not going to happen. I check everything on the way out. I wear many hats. I run big data poll for private clients. I edit everything that goes on PPD, economic indicators. I wear many, many hats. All right. And basically, home prices, depending what you're looking at, they're looking at the S&P Case-Shiller. All right. They didn't drop. They were just flat. Okay. They must be looking at the non-seasonally adjusted, which nobody uses anymore. Fox does that. The Case-Shiller home price index showed it a little flat. On the same day, the FHFA releases what's called their house price index. And the consensus for that was 0.3 of a bump, which is still a solid bump. It moves by very short amounts. It was up not almost a full point today. So there's some contradictory data out of Case-Shiller, which lags, and the FHFA. So Case-Shiller is looking back, just so everybody understands, they're looking back to June, and the FHAA also does, definitely conflicting data. In the end, I'm thinking with all the other housing statistics, Laura, that's got to be a damn glitch. That has to be some statistical noise or something, a one-off that will be revised, because when the market is this hot, there is no way prices are not rising when new home sales are 790 something last month and now 901 this month. Absolutely huge. Yeah, big revisions. We see that a lot. We absolutely see that a lot. You're welcome, Diane. I know it is confusing. They choose what they want to report. We don't do that. You'll see by the end of the day, there will be every single indicator on the economic calendar will be up. Fox is tripping out. In case you guys didn't hear Chris Wallace, the whale baby. You know who wasn't at the convention? George W. Bush. George W. Bush didn't go to Mitt Romney's convention and speak either, fool. All right. He said specifically he didn't want to get involved. Do you know why? Because they're friends. Because the Bush family is friends with the Clintons. They're buddies, have been for many years. They're friends with the Obamas. It is one giant scam. Oh, poor Chris. You're never going to be your daddy. You're never going to be your daddy. You are such a disappointment to you. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's true. I mean, look, he'll never. I used to love Mike Wallace. I loved him. I did. I loved Mike Wallace.
He was fair.
He was great, man. You know why? Because Mike Wallace, folks, he was from that years ago. Journalist was a working class job. You wore out the shoe leather. You hit the beat. Now there are a bunch of entitled, upper crust babies, yuppies. That is not what a journalist used to be. The Mike Wallaces wore out their shoe leather so the Chris Wallace can have a silver spoon. And I'm saying that's it. That's just the truth.
Preach it.
Mike Wallace was a real journalist and even there's things with him you could dig in. Nobody's perfect, but the era of that kind of journalist is over. And it's a real shame because it used to be a working class job. And that is a major, major part of the disconnect in this country, how they turned into the big media hate machine. It really is, because they don't live with the people they're supposed to be serving. All right. One more thing I want to show with Trump Jr. before we go, because this shoots to Donald Trump's justification. And what was great about Make America Great Again in 2016 was that it really encompassed all of those. Like, it was his justification, which was many different issues wrapped into one justification: law and order, trade, political correctness, you name it. He touched on that during his COVID remarks. He said Joe Biden put political correctness over the safety and welfare of American citizens. In this clip, he takes on the law and order, and what he draws a very stark contrast, because that is, by the way, a key in a rational policy choice election. All right.
People of faith are under attack. You're not allowed to go to church, but mass chaos in the streets gets a pass. It's almost like this election is shaping up to be church, work, and school versus rioting, looting, and vandalism. Or, in the words of Biden and the Democrats, peaceful protesting.
There it is. That drives the left nuts. But that's Donald Trump Jr. speaking to working class people in Michigan, working class people now in Wisconsin, and even, by the way, in the suburbs. It does. But although it is really, Donald Trump Jr. is great speaking to those working class people. And ultimately, like we showed you the other day, Joe Biden is making no inroads with these groups, but they need to get them to the polls. Barnes and I spoke about this last time on What Are the Odds. By the way, show announcement, What Are the Odds, will be on Friday. I told you we were going to reschedule it. It's going to be on Friday because we want to wrap up the RNC convention together Friday at 2 p.m. And then also, it does look like he wanted to change it to Monday. It may be best anyway. I'll let you know, though, as we go forward. But What Are the Odds will be Friday at 2 a.m. Another show announcement. We're going to start doing friends of the show kind of thing, all right? Because we have people who help promote us all over the place. And these are friends that have their own shows or whatever it may be. They're in media, they're right, whatever it may be. And we're going to start this friends of the show thing, all right? Speaking of, let me get you the date right now. When am I going to be on Frank, Laura? Wednesday. Yeah. That's tomorrow. Okay, so 7:30. I'll be on with Frank at Political Orgy. All right. Quite frankly, at 7:30. But anyway, tune in. It's not all about politics. Laura and I will put on Frank when we're just like wrapping up the nightly things at night. He's just got a lot of great discussion about different stuff. I mean, from politics to pop culture. And anyway, the show is Quite Frankly. I've been on it a bunch of times by now. And we always have great discussions. Frank is a good friend of the show, And if you have some time, check it out. I'll tweet out the link tomorrow.
Congratulations, Frank.
No, yeah. And Frank, congratulations on your expected new member of the family. It's always a blessing, my friend. Always a blessing. God bless you and your lovely Lauren, significant other. I know. Yeah, mine's Laura. His is Lauren. All right. God, there's nothing better than children. It really, they are a blessing. It really is all. It's like this life is not hard to figure out. Like what's the meaning of life? The meaning of life is be a good person and keep it going. Pay it forward. Family is really it. Back to the working class thing, though, right? I'll tweet out Quite Frankly tomorrow. That is the group on the right is a much bigger group than the group on the left. This is what some pundits really just don't seem to understand, including Republican pundits. Whites without college degrees vote en masse for Donald Trump, okay? There are more of them than there are the woke whites with college degrees, okay? And what do I mean by that? That lead, I think, is exacerbated for Joe Biden. I do, because there is other polling that and I don't particularly trust. I will have my own data soon, and I'll be able to make a much better determination. But whites with college degrees is not necessarily the woke white woman that they're trying to reach in metro and urban America. There are actually very few of them. There's not a lot of them. I'm talking about as a share of the electorate, Laura. Like pitching your whole convention to them is a mistake. It will be a gross mistake if there is I don't even know if we could call it silent at this point. Even big media polls are indicating Donald Trump is going to outperform his margin among black voters in his support among black voters that he got in 2016. Even the Fave Maris poll had Donald Trump double his support from 2016. I think it's really only a matter of how much. And if there is this, like, maybe not quiet, but unexpected jump in Donald Trump's share of the African-American vote and the Hispanic vote, It's not, and then those work. I mean, this is all given that those working class voters come out again. They have to come out for Donald Trump, or he won't win. They have to come out for him. All right, and that's why Donald Trump Jr.'s speech was really an important speech. It won't be enough. There aren't enough of those woke white women in the metro suburbs, folks. They're just, the suburbs, yes, are populated, but that specific voter as a share of the overall electorate is not that much. They're just not. And this is why I could not understand the strategy. I just didn't get it. And if they ignored this law and order and those voters race back, which we're already seeing some tightening in some of the polling, those white voters with college educations are starting to tighten now again. This happened in 2016, right, Laura? This happened in our own panel polling in 2016, where we, for people who don't know, it was thousands of people. Often we included, 10 to 30% of repeat individuals. They started to race back. The law and order thing, I think, was a big key to it. I do. And I'm feeling like Democrats ignored all of this during their convention. And now we see another night of violence and rioting and Kenosha and around the country. That is what will make those people race back. And I'm not sure they'll ever tell the media pollsters the truth, because they know what the right answer is, right? So I'm not sure they'd ever tell them the truth. And I really could foresee a scenario in which people are stunned, because they were stunned that those white women voted for Donald Trump by a hair. That was not supposed to happen. For those of you who need a history lesson and a trip down memory lane, it was a 20-point blowout going into 2016. It tightened toward the end dramatically, but still everybody thought Hillary Clinton was going to carry that vote. She did not. She lost it by a hair. And then, of course, she got pummeled among the working class. All right, so let's bring in Laura. I'll clear my throat.
Yeah. Well, I just had a question that, so do you think that is actually a tactic to manipulate the right to not vote and to gin up the left to vote more? That whole entire polling where it's D plus 20 and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, that's, generally it also helps for fundraising. And we had a question like this the other day. Why did they do this? It'll help Joe Biden with fundraising. If they show with big media leads, he needs to catch up to Donald Trump. He's outraised him now 2 months, but the Biden campaign's burn rate is ridiculous. A burn rate is the degree, how much do you spend compared to how much you're raising? But all through the primary, his burn rate was abysmal. I mean, it was a losing campaign burn rate. And it would have been. Barack Obama got him nominated, folks, for those of you who don't know the story. All right. Barack Obama got him nominated. He made the calls after it looked like Bernie was going to win, and he pushed everybody out of the race. I mean, essentially threatened everybody, nicely, the way Barack Obama does. But you'll be freaking finished if you could go on and try to win, but the outcome is not likely. Right now, the likely outcome is Bernie Sanders will win the nomination. And when you lose, you are finished. So why don't you rally behind Joe? Because I don't like him either, but he's the only one who has a chance to beat Donald Trump. I mean, that is the sad truth about how this went down. And they needed that win in South Carolina because they needed 2 weeks to do that and to convince the country that Bernie Sanders, or the Democratic country, that Bernie Sanders was unelectable. In truth, voters absolutely did not agree with the direction Joe Biden wanted to take the party, or his brand of corporate Democratic Partyism. They agreed with Bernie. And it was everywhere. State to state to state. All right. So, I mean, it can be, but the downside to that, Laura, also is that you can make your side complacent. Where, she's going to win. This happened in 2016, they say anyway. She's going to win. There's, it's going to be a blowout. I don't feel the need to race out to the polling station, and that was a mistake. Speaking of polling stations, before we cut today, I want to talk about what happened in Michigan. We're going to take a break before I do that. Not now. I'm going to keep going a second here, but I do want to talk about two things. One, some news out of Michigan with the Democratic. I told you guys when they were counting those votes, just the primary the other day, no problems out of most of Michigan's congressional districts and counties, and however you want to break it down. But fast forward to midnight Eastern time, and Detroit has still not reported a single freaking vote. That is third world, unacceptable, and inexplicable. And when we called, I'll explain to you more. They basically told us a bunch of people called out of work, right, Laura? A bunch of people called out of work, but don't worry, because we got super fast tabulating machines, and we're going to catch up. That was 3 hours before midnight. And it was still not, there wasn't a vote reported. And then some of them trickled in a little bit. And now we're hearing about massive irregularities. And then we also did check, because, these so-called election experts make me freaking laugh. You're a joke. You're a total joke. Oh, the overwhelming evidence is there's no risk of fraud. You are a fraud and a joke and a liar, all of you. We did some just on the surface digging to look at how many absentee ballots have been deemed invalid this election cycle. Wait until I tell you how many there are, and wait until I tell you how much there were in total in the 2016 presidential election. Primaries versus elections, that in general elections. It's incredible. Wait, but that is a tease, right? So I'll tell you on the flip side of the next break. Just to sum up the RNC here, from production standpoint, right? How was the show produced? Considering they didn't have Hollywood, and considering they didn't have the time to plan, like the DNC had time to plan, naturally, I was a bit taken back by how good the production was. It was seamless, right? One segment flowed perfectly into the other. It hit on every major issue that a convention must hit on, or goal, I would say. It answered the Democratic convention, and it provided, Reagan would be proud, actually, because Reagan said Republicans should paint with bold colors, not pale pastels, right? And what he meant by that, what Reagan meant by that, by the way, is what I've been telling you now for a week or 2 weeks. You have to make a rational policy choice, a rational policy argument. You have to force voters to make a rational policy choice. Who is going to make my life better? And that is what Reagan meant when he said to paint bold, paint a bold choice, because you can't pretend to be Democrat-like. You're not going to out-pander. You're not going to out-promise the Democratic Party. Never. You must draw a contrast to who you are versus who they are. And we saw that clear as day yesterday. So number one, production, and then thematically, which is what I was just talking about, when it comes to the actual, did they set up Trump's justification? Did they start to make that argument? I would argue that they more than started. It was pretty clear, and anybody watching. Did they answer the main Democratic criticisms of the president? Yeah, absolutely. Did they tell people why they should continue to move forward with Donald Trump? Absolutely. Did they answer the claims of racism and crap like that? Absolutely. The COVID, absolutely. Really, one down. The challenge is that was a fantastic night, and they're going to have to repeat it. So we have Melania Trump up tonight. All right. We got some big, Listen, Alice Johnson, folks. This is the speech I am looking for right here. Alice Johnson's speech. Depending on how she delivers it. Again, Alice Johnson has the ability to be extremely effective. Why? This is a rational policy argument. The first step, act. Donald Trump did what Democrats and everybody have been promising to do. When Barack Obama had the chance, when Joe Biden had the chance, they did not deliver. He came through for me, and I am a free woman this day because of it. So again, another example of making a rational policy argument using human interest stories to do it. Democrats did not make any. They used a lot of human stories, but it wasn't for a policy choice. It was to scare the hell out of you or to shame you.
It was the convention to shame you into voting for them.
These were real life.
And I'm not, I mean, this is how, but because the other ones are too, right? I know because they fake some of it. Good, the very fine people. I had nightmares after hearing he praised white supremacy. Well, because you're crazy and you believe fake news and you have a mental disorder. I mean, that's real. I'm sorry. Like, that's not a real policy. This is a policy, and this is a real life experience to how that policy impacted her life, her family's life, her grandchildren's life. All right. It has, I really do think, Laura, that speech should be given a big platform, and it has the potential to impact, to really set the, because you know what's funny about those white suburban women, folks? We used to call it the Rauner effect. They don't actually care if you're making, it's weird. They're just virtue signalers. They're fake virtue signalers. So if you are making overt efforts to pay attention to groups of society that they have white guilt over, then they tend to support you at higher rates anyway. So the answer is not to go after them. The answer is to pad their white guilt. I know it's crazy, but we call it the Rauner effect because Bruce Rauner did it in the Illinois. And then we had been looking at instances of that in the past, and we didn't have a name for it. It's just that when Bruce Rauner did it in 2014, he did it so well. And we were like, you know what? We're calling it the Rauner effect. He's going to win more, of course, of the minority vote, which he did. But he's also going to bring in those Chicago suburbs that have been trending pretty heavily Democrat. Let's take one from Laura. Let's take Laura's comment before we go to the break.
Well, I also think that they successfully promoted themselves to the suburban white mom, where we will keep you safe. Yeah. Because we are concerned about the same concerns you are. We are worried about your children. We are worried about their schooling. They want our children to succeed. So all of that fear mongering that the DNC did, I see a large shift to the white woman, suburbia to the RNC. Sorry.
Yeah. So like these women, safety is a big issue for these voters. There's no doubt about it. And Joe Biden and the Democratic Party ignored growing violence in these inner cities. That is, by the way, those people are closer to those inner cities. Those are not normal. We're not just talking about everyday suburb. It's a specific suburb we're talking about. The Atlanta suburbs, okay, for instance. Those and Philadelphia suburbs, their back is right up against this stuff. It could and will be in a suburb near them very soon. So these people do care. The voters do care about safety. So I do agree that I think it's pretty clear. And by the way, I know a lot of Trump supporters were going nuts over the Nikki Haley thing, and this is worth going over the break. Yeah. I know some people, I would disagree with my friend Barnes on this. She had a role to play. Now, it wasn't, look at how Fox praised her. That's one of the only speeches they didn't interrupt, right? And then, we got to play this. We got to, okay. And then, we do. This was a rock star moment, even though I know it's like, people when they heard he was going to speak, they criticized it. This goes as well towards everything we're just talking. I mean, really, this was a home run line.
Our family went from cotton to Congress in one lifetime. And that's why I believe the next American century can be better than the last. There are millions of families just like mine all across this nation, full of potential, seeking to live the American dream. And I'm here tonight to tell you that supporting the Republican ticket gives you the best chance of making that dream a reality. God bless you. And Father, please continue blessing the United States of America. God bless.
That was so good. I thought it was like, that was so good. If you could program a robot politician to just be like, listen, this is better be like perfect, right? And it was a software program. Tim Scott nailed it. He really nailed it. And people were like criticizing him over. that was the entire night. The theme, what Laura was talking about before, it's okay to be an American. Not only is it okay to love your country and to love who you are, but under us, under our direction, you can be one of those families like me. We went from cotton to Congress in less than in one generation. That was one of the most powerful lines of the night. And again, the whole time, rational policy choices, talking about his fight, his career-long fight for school choice, how he met resistance all along the way until Donald Trump, by the way, folks, consequently, school choice is extremely popular with African American women. The most Democrat loyal voter. Extremely popular. And here is a well articulate, he delivered it, articulated it perfectly. Here is an African American man, descendant of cotton pickers, talking about how his family succeeded and that he wants to, the president wants to, the party wants to make sure that they have that opportunity too. Again, a rational policy argument with a human interest story to reinforce it. It doesn't really get any better than that. No. It doesn't. There's not much more a party can hope to do. I will just say, because I see some people talking about Kimberly Guilfoyle, she was at Mark Hemingway was dead on. I laughed. I love, if you guys don't follow Molly Hemingway's husband, Mark Hemingway, on Twitter, he's a great follow. It's at Herminator. He goes, Kim, you're at an 11. I need you at a 7, right? And Laura's like, as a Hispanic woman, she's like, that's BS. That's just how we talk, right?
It's passion.
It's passion. You know what it is, though? It's because she wasn't delivering it to a live audience, Laura.
If she delivered
go ahead. Come on in with this.
If she was talking to a live audience, they would have been screaming, hollering, love of Kimberly. Yep. Kimberly, I understand your passion, Mama. From another Latina to another one, let me tell you, you gave a fiery speech, and I love you and adore you, and I felt your love for my children.
Look, she was like, because I'm like, Laura, if it was a live audience, and it would have been, you're dead on right though about that. If that was a packed convention, like there typically is, that would have been we would be talking about that as one of the best speeches of the night. It would have made that kind of an impact. All right. But because it was an empty room, it's so hard to deliver something like that in such a way. So I understand what Mark was talking about, but look, I'm a white man. I don't know how it looks to a Latino woman, so, and she was saying, no, from my point of view, a loud Puerto Rican point of view, this is great, So look, to each his own, right? So, okay, let's take a break real quick, right? Laura is right. Laura's always right, Glenn. Laura's always right, All right, folks, it's 11:09. We're past the break time. Let's take a quick break so we can take some questions too later. I want to just go over some stories with you about this mail-in ballot debacle we're about to run into. This is about to be the worst election quagmire. And I think it's obvious when you look at the actual data, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. When you look at the actual data where these things are transpiring, I think it's pretty clear. I've been right all along. They want to exploit the dirty rolls. So first of all, they've been stuffing ballot boxes for years. That's why they're called spigot cities. You turn on and off the spigot. You need more votes? Turn it on, get a couple thousand more, turn it off when you're about to take the lead. That was hard, though, when you don't have the dirty rolls to tap. What they're doing now is making the potential pool of vote ringing so much bigger. And clearly they're doing it. All right? They're doing it in their own primaries. And we're going to talk. The numbers are there. All right. We'll talk about it when we come back. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Follow PPD at PPD News. All right. We'll be back in 2 minutes after the Grammy considered bone ban.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, welcome back from the break. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Speaking on Twitter, during the break, I was looking. Apparently, Donna Brazile is trending. Apparently, she had another meltdown again this morning with Tammy Bruce on Fox and Friends. I'm going to try to get that video. It looks a little long. Maybe we can clip it and show it to people, because that's a little bit long. I'm not running 9 minutes of video. But yeah, somebody want to drip me a Twitter link or something with the video on it where it's short and sweet and to the point, I'll play it. But I'm not running a 9-minute YouTube video. But apparently she lost it at a total meltdown. It was Brian Kilmeade interviewing her and Tammy Bruce, and she just flipped out. So look, this is what Democrats do, and we're going to look at Pelosi as well. That is the downside of the media handicap. So when you rely on a handicap so heavily, when it comes time to actually stand on your own 2 feet and make an argument, you can't do it. You just can't do it. You don't know what the hell to do, you know? So we saw it last night, right, Laura? We saw it transpire last night. She's like, you know, I actually love watching Republican conventions because I finally get to see it, and it's, you know, I finally get to see Republicans, you know, I have Republicans in my family, and, you know, we talk all the time. The hell are you talking about? What are you talking? None of that made any. And then she just kind of babbled her way through the segment and off the panel. It was so weird, you know, but that's what happens when you can't give people debate questions, when you can't prep your answers beforehand, when you can't have an anchor or a so-called news person jump in and save you, right? You have to stand on your own 2 feet. You can't do it, so you fall on your face. It made no sense what she was saying yesterday.
You either you watch Republican conventions because it's the only time you could see Republicans in their totality, or you have Republicans in your family, so you speak to them all the time. What the hell are you? I mean, it's crazy stuff. All right. What the fish and chips, man. What the fish and chips. Anyway, yeah, somebody gets us that, or we'll take a look at it. We'll try to find it. Then I will. I got it here loaded up, but we'll laugh at her at the end of the show if we still have time. All right. Listen. All right. Latest thing here is that there will be an affidavit from Detroit. All right. And this guy is going to appear on the Kyle Olson show. He is an eyewitness. You got to take it with a grain of salt, but he did sign an affidavit. And in fact, we have seen people ask me what they can do about this. I'm going to tell you what you can do about it in a second. You do what this guy did. All right. But what he's ultimately alleging here, and that is that as many as 20,000 unverified absentee ballots were still counted in the Detroit primary. The primary I was just telling you about, Rashida Tlaib is part of this area he's discussing. All right. There were no votes, folks. No votes. There were precincts. The state was almost reported. Wayne County was not reporting anything. All right. Detroit was completely frozen. And nobody understood what was going on. And they told us essentially that people didn't show up for work. But don't worry, because they remember, Laura, they had super fast tabulator machines and they're going to catch up. They'll be just fine.
Yeah.
In fact, if you read this affidavit, not only does it appear that this people didn't show up for work excuse was total bull, but in fact, people started to leave after they did this. So they were there and then left. What he is saying, his name is Bob Cushman. And again, he filed an affidavit, signed affidavit. And what he's saying is on August 4th, the primary, Democrats stuffed, fed through the machines, upwards of 20,000 ballots. And in fact, he says it could be more. So anyway, he's going to go on this show, the Kyle Olson show. And I think he might have gone on it already. It's just not published yet. All right, but he said he is, and this is from Breitbart too, which, oh my God, Breitbart. It's an affidavit, guys. It's a freaking affidavit. All right. Cushman recounted several counting tables, quote, had open ballots with no poll book, unquote, to check to see if the individual was authorized to cast a ballot. Here's the problem with that anyway. As I showed you in the voter files, the poll book doesn't really tell you whether or not somebody is authorized. It just tells you whether or not they are actually on the voter roll. Right? There's no verification procedure being used here. That's a total joke. So it's not like this poll book is like the end all be all. But he said a car with an Ohio license plate was driven into the facility where he signed up to be a poll observer. And this is what people ask me all the time. What can I do? You could sign up to be a poll observer. I will tell you, however, that it doesn't always mean anything. I've seen poll observers completely ignored when they try to interfere and not interfere, but try to point out discrepancies, try to even stop the counting of votes that should not be counted or the wronging of something in other forms. I saw it in 2012 in Florida. I mean, but it's no doubt going to be harder if they see there's eyes. We're also in the era of technology. Back in 2012, it wasn't quite like it is now. I mean, you could pull out your phone and you could bust them right there if you wanted to. But he says this car with an Ohio license, car with Ohio license plates, driven into this facility, and that car was somebody that was delivering ballots. And it just seemed a little odd, he said. The name is someone that's a qualified real voter, is what he says the book is supposedly meant to ensure. I'm not sure I totally agree with that because, again, but he said he noticed pages being inserted into several poll books. And according to Cushman, some workers left early as the day dragged into the night. See, that's different than the story they told us. The story they told us earlier in the night was that they didn't have people showing up. Cushman is saying, in fact, people did. They just left as it drug on through the night. Polls closed at 8 p.m., but he observed at 12:37 that, quote, the threat was made that the $100 bonus that had been promised earlier over the public address system would not be paid. Cushman said in his affidavit that an order was made around 2 a.m. to open the remaining ballots, quote, for immediate tabulation without additional processing or notation. In other words, no verification procedures, nothing. And then he goes on to tell the Kyle Olson show, this is just my estimate, but I would guess there were 10,000 to 20,000 after 2 a.m. Could have been more. I mean, honestly, I can't tell you because we weren't getting any numbers. Cushman thought election officials should go back to analyze what ballots were counted after procedures were suspected and throw those votes out. I can also tell you about some other irregularities I've been contacted to look at from a statistical point of view in Michigan. In a very important area in Michigan. All of this is potentially consequential. Donald Trump won the state of Michigan, folks, by 10,704 votes. When we have seen these kinds of ringing up schemes before, I've told you this, but we see what category the vote is. Is it in-person early vote? Is it election day in-person vote? Is it absentee ballot? What is it? Those breaks are calculated by precinct. There should be no surprises, even if, theoretically, a car pulled up and said, oh my God, we forgot to count these ballots. The break, the margin, should generally be consistent with what we've seen in those other areas, those other similar precincts, or even the same precinct. But that doesn't happen. So it goes from being 70-30 to 90-10 or 85-15. He said in instances such as what happened in Detroit with numbers not squaring, Michigan law prevents a recount. He also says he, quote, does not have faith, unquote, that the errors during the primary election will be rectified by the November election. Quote, but perhaps if we put enough light on this subject, that there will be enough heat to get it done correctly, unquote. This is why I'm doing it. But just to raise awareness. And people ask me all the time what they can do. That's what you could do. You could do what Mr. Cushman did. Go register to observe. Go volunteer. And he encourages people to do that. So, on the other side of this story, we wanted to look into how many absentee ballots, how many vote by mail ballots have been DQ'd this election cycle. Because you heard about 120,000 in question in New York, 20,000 in one race where the Assemblywoman won by 1,000 votes. How many in Wisconsin? What are we up to? 20,000 in Wisconsin, or maybe even more. Anyway, altogether, there have been roughly 600,000 absentee votes at mail-in votes that have been deemed illegitimate and DQ'd in the 2020 primaries. They are disproportionately and overwhelmingly Democratic votes in Democratic precincts, in Democratic strongholds. And that makes total sense if you watch the voter file analysis we run, because the problem of dirty rolls disproportionately is in Democratic strongholds and Democratic precincts. Clark County is 70% of the statewide vote, but it is over 80% of the dirty rolls statewide. Philadelphia, same deal. Or same disproportionately high number of dirty rolls. So what does that compare to? In the 2016 presidential election, there were approximately 350,000 ballots deemed invalid out of 137 million votes. As you all know, not as many people vote in primaries as vote in the general election. And yet somehow, we are almost twice as many already. People, these so-called experts, these frauds, these hacks, these jokes, cowards is what they are, because they know they're freaking liars. They just don't have the cojones to touch the third rail. They're cowards.
I'm so tired.
The overwhelming evidence is that there's no election fraud with these ballots. Then where the hell are they coming from, you morons? Where are they coming from? Who's doing it? What's the point? And also look at where they're coming from. They're coming from overwhelmingly and disproportionately Democratic areas, which again should not be a shocker because this is a problem disproportionate to Democratic areas. All you can do is shine a light on it. Like the guy said, you want to know, people always say, what can you do? Go register, be a poll observer, get your camera out.
Amen.
That's it. Because if it wasn't for Matt Gaetz, they would have took that Senate seat in Florida in 2018. They had already plucked off the agricultural commissioner seat, and they would have plucked off Rick Scott too.
They were fuming over Gaetz.
Oh, yes. They were mad as hell he showed up there because they knew, look, for those who are not familiar with how it's done in Florida and Broward County and Miami, all those, Palm Beach, they'll lock the doors on you. They will kick you out. So, and they will do it behind closed doors, and they'll come out and they'll tell you what the numbers are now. It's total joke. No transparency. Remember in 2000, there were, maybe you guys don't, but there were Republicans, literally, they had to try to beat the door down.
The panhandle. Remember that?
Yeah.
They tried to tell people who were lined up.
Well, but this is like vote. Yeah, I know where you're going, but this is like straight up them, how they count votes. And they weren't going to open that door, Laura. Mm-hmm. They were not going to open that door. You're supposed to have overseers on both sides looking. They were not going to open it. Republicans had to force their way into the room physically. And in 2018, they were furious when Matt Gaetz showed up because he's a sitting congressman from the state of Florida. You cannot kick him out or not let him in, which they did, in fact, try to do anyway.
Yes, they did.
And if Rick Scott wasn't the governor, if Matt Gaetz didn't come down there, and if people like us didn't scream at the top of our lungs, they would have taken that Senate seat.
Easy.
They would have. Folks, it's very easy in a state with 9.5 million votes on any given election to find 10,000. And now they have made it extremely easy to do this. Yeah. That car pulled up with those ballots because their job was to go through the dirty rolls, to request to find ballots nobody was going to request or answer. That's why those ballot requests are going out. Their job was to find these ballots. We got these still, right? Right from Michigan. Here we go. It's Macomb County right there. Their job is to go around, find those requests, get those ballots, and stockpile the hell out of them. Then on election night, Wayne County won't report anything like the regular state does. And they'll decide how many more votes they need to ring up to win. And they could easily have stolen the 2016 election with those number of votes. Or not the election, but Michigan. In Pennsylvania, apparently they were cheating, according to the Justice Department. Hillary Clinton's vote share is almost it should be a known fact now that Donald Trump carried the state of Pennsylvania by a larger margin. You think those precincts voted for you? So some of these people make me laugh. Those indictments. How many votes did they ring up for Hillary Clinton? Right? I mean, this is almost, you could just put in the bank at this point. Donald Trump won the state of Pennsylvania in 2016 by a larger margin than 40,000 votes. So there it is. All right. Hold on one second, folks. All right. So it just echoes back at me a little bit. All right. It's 11:30. Laura wants me to take some questions. I want to take some questions. You're going to take questions. We can talk about the convention, whatever you guys want to talk about. Apparently she's got them all lined up already. All right, listen, let's take a real quick break, and we will be back with more Inside the Numbers in 30 seconds. All right. Let's go to you with questions. All right. I will just say this, though, folks. All right. Just to like really, I'm going to answer like 100 questions right now in one shot. Do not pay too much attention to early polling. All right. I'm not going to comment on every single poll that comes out. I'm just not. You know the states that have been grossly inaccurate over the last several election cycles. Okay? You know how inaccurate by now, if you watch Inside the Numbers, summer polling is. In 2016, along with several other ones, it was grossly inaccurate. 1988, 1972. I mean, they were just the examples are endless at this point. All right. In fact, I will say this and only this about battleground state polling currently as it stands right now. If you aggregate the battleground states, Donald Trump is doing 1.5 points better than he was doing against Hillary Clinton at this period. All right. So that's it. Let's hope that's a wrap. Okay. Let's get, I do have an important message that just clicked in, Laura, but go ahead, shoot it off.
I just want you to know that one of our followers, Teresa, on Periscope, she sent you a 2-minute clip video of what you were asking. And I just want to put a little shout out there to G Bear. Thank you for that super heart. We love you and appreciate it. Okay, now on to questions. Joseph Gabriel wants to know, how are you baking paper ballots into the numbers?
So that's very, very, my fault. So that's very difficult for any pollster to do. And I, in fact, am starting to believe that some of these expanded, ridiculous leads are coming from pollsters who believe this now. Like, or not all of them. I'm just talking about certain media outlets. I think they're lying to you, and they know they're lying to you. I mean, I don't think. I know. I know some news organizations have people on the ground and have seen these. So, we're not the only ones aggregating in these instances. I mean, of course not. They just choose not to tell you about them. All right. So, it's difficult. All I can do is try to gauge the electorate that I would do every election cycle. You can't really bake fraud into the mix. You really can't. You really can't. Okay. So, I mean, that's the answer to that. Yep. You know?
Dirt Doll wants... Oh, sorry. My bad. Dirt Doll wants to know, do you have data from old polls in the past that lead up to the election? If so, did you make the presidential pick predictions? And I would love to know how far back you've been doing this.
So in 2014, we did something a little bit different. That was the debut of the actual election model. And we did something a little bit different, which was we generally had and always have had the idea that poll swings, big polling swings, are not real. And what I mean by that is they are artifacts of the polls themselves. The only thing that really swings and changes dramatically is who is going to vote, not how those people will vote. And what I mean is you can already identify the partisans that are going to go out. All right. And you got to try to decide how many of each will go out. And then you have to try to identify who really is truly undecided. In 2014, what the modeling did, so when you saw projected vote share, what we were doing there was really the panels were kind of small, maybe 150 people in North Carolina. Not a lot, but that's because those were only the people that we knew would go. They're going to vote, but they are truly undecided. And that is what we did in 2014. So it was a little bit different, but based off of the idea that polling swings are artifacts of the polls themselves, response bias, all those other things that we talk about constantly. In 2016, I don't know, get them a link, drop them a link. We weren't really wrong nationally, which gave, it was essentially tied, but it gave Trump a tiny edge because we waited against the autopsy of our own work when we were done. I waited for California and New York and some of these other larger population states in a very traditional manner That was wrong. We should have weighted them more, even though I have argued and have been arguing for a long time that the Electoral College and the popular vote will show a disparity now and will probably grow. Not probably, it will grow, even depending on who wins and who loses. That may obscure the trend a little bit, but nevertheless, the trend is there. So the national popular vote one was a little off, but the states were dead on. And the only one we overestimated Trump in was in New Hampshire, and that was such a close race. I do not regret that result at all. But in most cases, we underestimated him. And I can get a link when I'll put it in the YouTube thing or something. I would keep a spreadsheet, that keeps, I think that one that I'm thinking in my head is the last two, which will show you some of the internals and the demographics. But, and then some of them are more than two, actually, because some states we just track longer. But most of them, we actually underestimated Donald Trump. But we still nevertheless called the Electoral College correctly. So, but, Ohio, it was Trump +3. He won by 9. In Iowa, it was Trump +6, I think. He won by 10. So we underestimated him in most of these states. Florida was right on the damn money. Pennsylvania was in tens of percentage points. It was right on the money. And then the one I didn't believe, which Larry Schweikert has his funny story with in How Trump Won, the book, it was Wisconsin. I just didn't believe it. I thought we were just going to be wrong. I thought she would carry Wisconsin, and I was wrong. And ultimately, it was one of the first ones to go that night. Yeah, I'll put it in the YouTube link for him. All right. And then one actually is kind of really easy to grab right now. It's the chart of the national top line numbers. But these people don't want top line numbers. You guys want to see internal data, right? You want to see crosstabs and stuff. I'll put that into the YouTube stuff so you guys can see that. All right. Yeah, they should. I mean, look, there's no reason why people shouldn't release any of that soon. And speaking of which, we're not going to do, there was never such thing as like the People's Pundit Daily poll. All right. We run another organization that did polling for that model. So Jackass is wrong about that. And if we would have picked up a phone, he would know something so simple. But in the end, that was kind of like a public service. It cost us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, guys. We cannot do that every election cycle. We just can't. Maybe I'll throw out one here and there. We just signed a contract with an outlet anyway, which you guys are going to hear about soon. So it will be my polling. It just won't be for like PPD or for me or something, which it shouldn't really be. I mean, PPD should remain relatively neutral and has to get, all right. But yeah, you guys will hear about that soon. And I'm done with the questionnaire. I'm waiting for their final approval, and then we'll get in the field. That's how it works. You meet with the client. They say, this is what we kind of want to do with the poll. As the pollster, you put it together. You design the questionnaire. You make sure the wording is correct and ethical. Unbelievably, that still has to be spoken. And the ordering of the questions is correct and ethical. Unbelievably, that still has to be spoken. But it's true. Like, you can't say, what do you think of Donald Trump's insulting tweets on Twitter? By the way, do you approve or disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing as president? And by the way, do you plan to vote for him or Joe Biden in November? That is crap. Vote preference and approvals must come first. Then you can get into stuff like that. Otherwise, it's very, very textbook tainted questionnaire and survey order. So, yeah, so we just wrapped that up yesterday. I'm waiting for them to say, okay, that's good. Sometimes they'll come back and they'll say, well, I want to add this. I want to take this away. Maybe we don't care about asking this. And then once we're good to go, I mean, I'm good to go. I'm just waiting for their thumbs up. And it's going to be a very large sample. It'll be national polling, and then there'll be regional battleground state polling. Large samples, okay? Constantly tracking. From today, it'll be released in leapfrog waves, and I'm only doing this because I see that some of the questions that are on the side, so I'm trying to answer. It'll be released in like a leapfrog. So in the beginning of September, you'll get the national poll. 2 weeks later, you'll get a bunch of states in the Rust Belt. 2 weeks later, you'll get another national poll. 2 weeks later, you'll get a bunch of states in the Rust Belt. All right. And it will be the same states, and it will be the same national, obviously. But I'm not going to stop actually tracking, because There's a lot of problems from yesterday, if you remember me saying, a lot of problems reaching certain demographic groups. So you have to set quotas and oversample. And that pretty much requires, in this day and age, not stopping. You have to continuously conduct field work. All right. Next question.
All right. Evan Bliss wants to know, would an establishment candidate like Nikki Haley have a difficult time carrying white working class voters in the Rust Belt if she ran in 2024?
That was a fantastic question. I saw that earlier in the show in the queue. Yeah, as of right now, I think so. And whoops, I knocked in everything. And I think they know that, and she knows that, which is why she's very smart political animal, Nikki Haley. Okay. That is one of the reasons why, that and her personal philosophy, but she has political aspirations, knows she will need the Trump base to win, knows if she wants to win a general election, she needs to appeal to that group of voters. So she's going to try to hold together those voters who support Donald Trump. I think still ultimately some of these states, the image of the Republican Party being a warmongering party or a war hawk, foreign policy hawk party, the neocon stigma that was attached to the Republican Party, which Nikki Haley honestly has quite a bit of. It's not good in the Rust Belt. It's not. It's those working class voters, they'll vote for Barack Obama and they'll vote for Donald Trump. Get it. All right. They'll vote over Mitt Romney and John McCain, by the way. New Hampshire is another great example. George W. Bush carried New Hampshire in 2000. He was the nationalist anti-war candidate. And then in 2004, he ran against John Kerry, who at the time was pretending to be anti-war. Now he's pro-war. But at the time, he was the anti-war candidate. John Kerry flipped New Hampshire, took it away from George W. Bush. And Republicans haven't gotten it back since, and almost got it back because of Donald Trump. And that was because of Donald Trump's appeal to the working class and his anti-war stance. All right. New Hampshire does not like interventionism. They don't. And neither does Michigan. Neither does Wisconsin. Neither does Ohio, for that matter. Neither does Iowa. They just don't like it. Those voters have been treated like the redheaded stepchild of the American electorate for decades. And they're the ones who have taken the brunt of these bad policies that, like the woke political class, just, they don't understand because they don't live it. But, those are the voters who opened my eyes in 2016 when we were polling. The best thing I ever did was to add an open-ended text answer to our questionnaire. So after they told us who they were going to vote for, we would say, can you please tell us a little bit why you're voting for Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton? The answers for the Trump voters, especially when you cross them with who these people were, they were eye-opening. They really were. The liberals who voted for Bernie Sanders in Michigan, who decided, I'm voting for Donald Trump. I mean, now those are just Trump voters. And they describe themselves as moderately liberal. And the media is like, these are all a bunch of racist pieces of crap. And the answer to that is, somebody like Nikki Haley. She would not carry those states. Marco Rubio was never going to carry those states. Jeb Bush was never going to carry those states. They may not even have carried their own damn state. I'm serious. And I'm not even sure, unless Nikki Haley does a dramatic change, I'm not even sure that Nikki Haley would win the nomination in 2020. And that's including if Donald Trump loses. They're not getting their party back. It's not happening. All right, next question.
All right. Cheryl Bebbington.
That is absolutely driving me crazy.
Bebbington, you hear that? Said, how many Democrats do you think watched last night? Is the RNC preaching to the choir?
We'll have to. That's another great question. We'll have to get some of the data out that we got from the DNC, which showed, and that'll be out soon. We'll get the first wave of that in about 15 minutes after the show. We'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. That's a great example. the live streams when Laura and I, cover stuff like this. We did it last week with the DNC. We'll go to Yahoo. We'll go to their own platforms. We'll go to Facebook. We'll look at the live streams. We'll tally them up. And we'll also look, then, of course, when we get ratings numbers, actual data from ratings, from Nielsen or whoever does it, we'll look at that too. We don't have the actual ratings data yet. The DNC, they were preaching to the choir, and nobody was watching their live streams. If it wasn't for big media, nobody would have saw the DNC at all, even the big, massive drop-off that they got from 2016. I would not be surprised if there was a drop-off from the Republican National Convention in 2016. I wouldn't be surprised. But the live streams yesterday were big. And they were, like, on Yahoo, it was like 3 times the size of the DNC, right? It was 3.5 Yahoo. And some of them were even bigger. I mean, it was a massive disparity. Now, when I saw it, I thought to myself, well, is that because they're turning off big media? I mean, they don't give a damn what Fox News thinks. And by the way, Fox took a big hit last night, and so they should. Nobody cares what Sean Hannity thinks when Vernon Jones is trying to speak. A black Democrat from Georgia is talking, and he's got white Republican Senator Lindsey Graham talking about the Russia investigation. I mean, you're stupid. I mean, it's to be expected. So maybe some of that was just, right and right-leaning voters, tuning out big media. We'll see. But there's no doubt the live streams were folks, they were way over the DNC. And I'm just curious to see, because I think Fox still nevertheless led in DNC ratings. I'd have to go back and check that. But I can't.
If it wasn't for Laura, you wouldn't have heard Maximo's speech or who was the other one that was really good?
I don't know if you guys can hear what you're saying, but Laura had to come in, Laura Ingraham, had to basically come in and do like apology highlights, like to viewers, like this is the speech that we cut out earlier. This is what I mean, so people, see, look at this. I hope you guys don't mind me putting some of your comments up there, but I got that a lot. Here's Michael Thomas. Fox got turned off in my household last night. I got messages on Twitter. I got text messages. I got whatever saying for the first time, Fox is off in my damn house. Like, I'm not watching it. This is another one. Teresa in PA. Sean Hannity does not know how to shut up and let his guests speak. That is the general consensus in this household as well. But then you have this, people like my 80-year-old mom and aunt don't do YouTube Periscope, but they have cable. That's why I'm curious to see what the overall numbers shake out to be. General consensus is Fox sucks. And Laura had to be the cleanup crew. Listen, here's another one. This is well worth putting up. The president thanked CNN today and said they did the country a good service. I agree. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I agree, and I'm glad he actually did it. One America did carry it, Diane, yes. I put on C-SPAN like Nick. I like C-SPAN, or I'll watch the actual live feeds. It's part of my job, though, to bounce back and forth between what the media is saying. So I do it anyway, and I do it across the board because it really is part of my job, right? But CNN did cover a lot of it, and they didn't do what MSNBC did, which was a total joke, right? We're not going to just play it unencumbered. So we have a responsibility to fact check and make sure everything's okay, we're not feeding our viewer lies. Did you have a responsibility to tell your viewers that the Fine People hoax, the very Fine People hoax, was in fact a hoax? Did you bump in and fact check Michelle Obama when she lied about kids in cages? Did you bump in and fact check when Kamala Harris lied about her record as a prosecutor? and her long record on her stance on locking up black and brown people. Did you fact check Joe Biden when he said that no president of the United States until Donald Trump has ever praised white supremacists? No, you didn't. So it was a bit of a joke. CNN didn't do that, although their heads were exploding, and they did get the Media Matters talking points and start to roll with them. But at least they did a service and let it go. So, yep, look. And DZ said, watched a lot on YouTube from Australia. Only way to watch it. Watched it on direct Fox stream only because they have a live chat and wanted to see the people's comments too. I prefer C-SPAN. Totally agree. But then, so we'll have on C-SPAN on the live feed, and then on TV, I'll click back and forth, and we'll see on the one of the TVs who's saying what. But for the most part, I'm a live feed and C-SPAN guy. I don't really give a damn what Dana Perino's take is on it. I really don't give a damn what Juan Williams has to say, which you scorched him on Twitter last night, Laura. Scorched him. Look, all of the polls suggests that Donald Trump will do better than he did in 2016. And Juan Williams said he's got, 95%. No, he does not. And that is why he picked Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden has been mired in the low 80s. His turnout level projections are lower than Hillary Clinton's. So it's not only, that was just simply not true. What he said was just not true. Even the Marist poll, the totality of the data suggests that Donald Trump will absolutely outperform his 2016 margin among black voters. And that's being driven, I can tell you from personal experience, that is being driven by working black men. All right? Doesn't matter whether he gets 20%. Like the Marist poll shows, by the way. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to.
My opinion.
Okay?
My opinion is you shouldn't be speaking about polls and percentages if you
Yeah.
haven't run a dang data.
And Laura said it scorched him on Twitter last night. What the hell are you talking about for, Juan? Why are you speaking about things you don't even understand? Did you commission a poll? Are you a pollster? Have you polled black voters yourself? He has no clue. By the way, Juan Williams, your own son's voting for Donald Trump. So, what do you think of that? All right. So, yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I didn't get the ratings yet, but I'll definitely check them out. I could just tell you the live streams were, apparently, look, I really have to get this video because Donna Brazile showed who she really is this morning, a race-baiting bigot. Listen, everybody that you will run into in this business, whether they're on the right or the left, if they are one of the media establishment figures, and they tell me all the time, she's really such a wonderful woman, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Donna Brazile is so nice. She's just such a wonderful, wonderful woman. That's not what we have seen of her publicly. She is nasty when she wants to be. And Fox really should be ashamed of themselves. Rewind the tape, folks. And in 2016, Fox News was shaming CNN. How could a reputable news organization hire somebody who would betray their trust like that and give away debate questions to the opponent?
And then Fox News hires her.
Honestly, Jake Tapper has more credibility in that, because Jake Tapper immediately came out and said, as a news organization, we cannot be affiliated with somebody who would breach our trust this badly and leak debate questions. And then CNN kicked her to the curb. 2 years later, Fox News hires her after trashing her and CNN till the cows come home. And they only did it because I'll tell you this again, folks, they want debate money. They want money that comes along with being back in the club, the media club, which they were ostracized from after Donald Trump surprisingly won the 2016 election. All right. Fox News pretends to be the Hallmark channel of cable news. They are frauds. In fact, I find them to be worse than CNN and MSNBC, because at least CNN and MSNBC are outwardly who they are. They don't pretend to be something they're not. I have known too many girls who worked at Fox News.
All right. Questions. All right. Nutlet wants to know, I wonder how, I'm going to butcher this, Kenosha riots affect Wisconsin in the presidential election. They got to help Trump, right?
Right. So listen, Kenosha's a big deal. It's a swing area. I would still say it's a swing area. All right. However, it had been trending Democrat. Donald Trump did significantly better than the last two Republican nominees in Kenosha. And so did the Supreme Court Justice who won that race. The other one got killed by Trotskyite. What's her name? Yeah, so Kenosha swings. It's important. It's very important. If Donald Trump is not leading in Kenosha, he will lose the state of Wisconsin. All right. So Scott Walker did very well in Kenosha. That is how he was able to mount up the victories he did before his name was just on the ballot one too many times. And even Paul Ryan, that's the first congressional district down there, very close. He had some appeal to it. It just didn't translate to his ticket that he was on with Mitt Romney, right? Kenosha, though, had been like going more and more toward Democrats. And it's not because of, these are the same voters who all of a sudden now don't vote Republican anymore. That's crap. Kenosha has changed. It used to be one of the most beautiful places in Wisconsin's a beautiful state. It used to be one of the best areas in Wisconsin. And it said Midwest. It was emblematic, right, of the Midwest. It is over the years gotten worse. It is becoming like, first they ghettoify the suburbs, like, I don't know how else to put it. It's not gentrification. It's the dirt of pop culture, I guess, and then it's also demographically changing. So it's not the same place it was before. However, there still are enough voters in there to see a big swing, which is what Democrats were shocked to hell over in 2016 because Trump did it. He needs to carry Kenosha. I do think that the riots will help Donald Trump in an area. Absolutely, it hasn't sunk in yet, but I do, because at first I wasn't sure, but they're making the case in this convention. They are. One of the things I had been saying was, you cannot be the law and order candidate and then allow this crap to continue. You just can't be. And they're not making the case that Joe Biden is really the leader of this now. Like, that is those people, BLM and Antifa, they are the de facto militia of the Democratic Party, but they weren't making a good case tying Joe Biden to that. Right. And even, I don't want to say her name, but even my own, I got a very, very, very liberal cousin. Very. Love her to death. Wonderful human being. I'll kill for her. But I don't agree with her on anything almost. She's nuts. All right. She is voting straight Republican down ballot because of this issue. Now, she doesn't yet see Joe Biden. She hates to fund the police. Right? Hates it. But she hasn't yet connected the dots to Joe Biden. So she would be one of the harder cases, but clearly it can be made. And I think by the end of this convention, we'll know how much they've made strides in trying to reach maybe not voters like her, but just like her, but voters like her. All right. They need to make that connection. Joe Biden has pretended to be like he's gotten away so far because he's hiding. He's gotten away with being I'm just Uncle Joe. I'm just Uncle Joe. I'm not a radical. I'm Joe.
Uncle Joe.
I'm Joe.
Remember my own name.
Right. All right. Let's hit up another question.
Of that question, Richard Warder wants to know, on the law and order message that President Trump is running with, does it not also kind of hurt him by not showing some level of strength against these riots?
Yeah, so that's where I agree with this line of argument. So people will tell you, the 40 chess people, the Mitch McConnell backers, Glenn, you know what I'm talking about here. They'll tell you, oh, they're just trying to bait us. Who gives a damn about Portland? Who cares about Seattle? Okay. What about Kenosha, Wisconsin? It is always, from my perspective, it is always more risky to not fulfill a campaign promise, or to put it more simply and in line with my vocabulary, to betray your justification, right? To undermine your own justification. So make America great, keep America great. That means safety, prosperity, all right, and the preservation of the American way of life. It also, law and order is a huge part of that. You cannot be law and order if you let it go on. All right, so you don't want to be baited into a fight with Portland or Seattle. Well, in Kenosha, they asked for the National Guard. And yet and they did. They're mobile. By the way, people should know that. They did ask for the National Guard to get things under control in Kenosha. Unfortunately, the rioting continued. We'll see if they get it under control again. But I would say, where the hell is Bill Barr? Where is the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department? J. Christian Adams was 100% correct about that agency. They are a Democrat hack subgroup in the Department of Justice whose sole purpose is to advance social justice warrior issues. And to take over locality, take over local police power. If the roles were reversed and Barack Obama was president, he would have had the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department crawling up every orifice that these organizations' leaders have. It's just a fact. Does it not violate the civil rights, Laura, of the car dealership owner to see his whole thing set ablaze?
Absolutely.
And the picture of the stupid woke church burning is really, honestly, it says everything. Pictures really do say 1,000 words, right? They have Black Lives Matter. They were virtue signaling right on their sign. They're a Unitarian church, I think. So they were like, as woke as you could be in a congregation, and they still burn to the ground. But nevertheless, they deserve protection by Bill Barr's Justice Department, because at their face, these are civil rights violations. This is political terrorism. It's domestic terrorism because it is political in nature. This is not about Black lives. This is about Marxism. Where the hell is Bill Barr? That's it. So yeah, the answer to that question is it does. There is a huge risk in undermining your own justification. So while those naysayers, right? Oh, don't get we're playing 4D chess here. Don't get tricked and baited into a confrontation, where somebody gets hurt and then they can paint Trump as a tyrant. It's just Portland. It's just Seattle. Okay, well, now we're talking about Kenosha, Wisconsin. They voted for you. They voted for you. Do something to help them, or they're not going to vote for you again. That's all I'm saying. All right, next question.
All right, KGB Pantsuit has a question.
Oh, KGB Pantsuit.
Yes. I'm a Republican, longtime absentee ballot user. What should I do? Vote in person? Mail it in? Needs advice.
What state does he live in?
California.
Okay. Look at California 25. I think Trump he made my job a little bit difficult, because in the beginning, when he was trying to explain the problems, he was not doing it correctly. California 25. Look at that. I mean, that overwhelmingly flipped, right? California has, been known to and so is Florida. So a long time absentee ballots. The signature verification procedures were the problem. All right. The moratorium on verification procedures. The moratorium on bans of ballot harvesters. In your state, there is no ban, but in most other states, there is. You could vote by mail, absentee ballot. I mean, make sure that you are the one who requests that ballot. So if you're going to do it, I would do it early, because what these ballot harvesters are going to start to do is pour over the rolls and see who has not requested their ballot yet. And I'm telling you, we're going to hear stories of people who request their own ballot and to find that their ballot has already been requested. That's going to happen. But yeah, it's Trump just kind of messed up a little. We've had instances where absentee ballots, like in Florida, they are marked Republican, Democrat, right? There have been instances with Brenda Snipes and others in Broward County junking Republican ballots that she knew came in. But for the most part, she's gone now. I still do think it's safe. The danger is allowing all of these ballots that are unrequested, unsolicited, let's just call them unsolicited ballots and ballot requests, to go out and float around in the system for these people to grab and bring in. They'll have 3 more days in most states to count these votes as they come in the trunks of cars, like we just heard about with the gentleman who watched them ring up 20,000 ballots in Detroit. I mean, so that's the danger. Could somebody get your ballot and junk it, man? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess theoretically, absolutely. There has actually even been instances of postal service workers being, charged with felonies. It's a felony, but they have been charged with taking ballots and junking them. In Connecticut, in 2018, Bob Stefanowski almost defeated the Democratic candidate for governor. There were widespread complaints about, in rural areas too, of the mail postal service people taking Republican ballots and destroying them, hundreds of them at a time. That election was decided by a few thousand votes. So it is possible. I just don't want you to look at this issue from that point of view. What I am worried about is the wholesale, quasi, or even straight up harvesting of unsolicited ballots and ballot requests to then be turned in without verification procedures and rung up in the vote counting machine without being validated. All right. Because what we're seeing overwhelmingly is that when people go back, these votes were counted in many of these instances. They were already counted. Patterson, the judge had to order a new election because so many of them were counted and were invalid, 20%. Mm-hmm. New York, I don't even know where we're at now, 120,000. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm talking about in total. And it's just crazy. But I mean, it is possible that somebody can tamper with your ballot. If that really, I don't think it's a high possibility, of course. But yes, it does happen on it can and does happen on the fringes. It depends. I mean, especially too, I don't want to tell a person who may or may not have like a pre-existing condition to go vote in person. I am just telling you from our experience too. When we voted, Laura and I, it was extremely safe. I mean, if you can, like Dr. Burke said, if you can wait on a line in Starbucks with a mask on, you could go vote. It was extremely safe even back then, right, Laura? Mm-hmm. Even back then, it really was.
Well, also, a person had a kind of follow-up question to that. Should we all check to see if a ballot in our names has been requested?
Right. So if you, the question was, because I didn't swap mics, should we all check whether a ballot has been requested in our names? You should. I mean, if you intend to vote on election day, then what's going to happen if somebody did take, because this is what is the danger. Let's say you moved in the last 2 years. You're still going to likely get a ballot request sent to your old address, which is what all of these are. Okay. I showed you some. I showed you this one before. That's Macomb County, Michigan, basically the last 20 years of residents living in that address. Here is Florida. All right. What's this? Jacksonville, Laura? Yeah. Yes. Roger D. Sears and Roger D. Sears II. Senior. Right. They are, those are instances of what I'm about to talk about right now, which is that it may be possible that a ballot request, an unsolicited ballot request, goes to an old address that you lived at in that state, or maybe even out of state, okay? If you go and wait until election day and somebody has taken that, let's say it lands on the desk of some woke nutcase like that, what was her name from the NSA who leaked the transcripts to her Trump political, leak, which was, her name. I'm trying to use her name though as a way to invoke the kind of person I'm talking about. Let's say it lands on someone like that's, doorstep, and they say, I hate Donald Trump so much. He's a Nazi, and I'm not breaking the law. In fact, I'm not doing anything wrong by breaking the law. If I cast this extra vote, I'm in fact being virtuous because Donald Trump is a Nazi, and it's in my civic obligation to stop the Nazi. So I'm going to fill it in, and I'm going to send it back. If that happens to one of your ballots and you have a change of address flags, when you get to the poll, they're going to give you a provisional ballot, and your vote is not going to count. And then if the state is close, if maybe an election commission, a panel, and the supervisor of elections office will determine which ballot is real and which one is not. I mean, this is the quagmire we're headed for. It's crazy. And we've seen these instances in Florida even before all of this. And they show up and they're like, you voted absentee. And the person says, no, I did not. You voted absentee. Fill in a provisional ballot. It won't matter. Your vote essentially will not count. All right? I mean, it just won't. So, yeah, the answer to that is, I mean, you could still request yours and then decide to vote on election day in many places. So if you make that request or you get it and then decide to bring it in on election day, Laura and I do that a lot. We'll request our own ballot to make sure that it's proof, fraud proof. Nobody can take our ballot. And then we hand walk it in on election day. All right? Sure. And then they check the book. That's why Florida is so good with this. Because then they check the book, Laura, and they say, yeah, okay, nope, no ballot submitted yet. You know you didn't vote. Somebody didn't vote for you. Yes. Please sign here on the dotted line. Does it match? I mean, this has to be the way this is. I don't understand, by the way, why all of these voting verification procedures, the IDs, even what Trump said, everybody lost it in media the other day when he said, I'm about to send federal agents to oversee this puppy. Okay? We demand that of emerging third world countries. The UN demands it. Why is it good enough for them, but not enough for us? Why is it not tyranny to conduct oversight over an election? It's ludicrous.
Amen to that.
All right, one more. My voice is done.
All right. Michael Thomas wants to know, let's see, what is to be inferred by campaigns leaking their internals? I've seen a lot of internals lately, especially in congressional races.
That is a fantastic question. They want money. They want money. I can't tell you how many campaigns I've worked for where they want money. They want a poll. They want a result, which you're not going to get. Look, don't hire me if you're looking for that, because I'll disappoint you. You're either ahead or you're not, and I'm not going to play that game. But that's what they're trying to do. That's a great question. They dump those out there. They put them into a fundraising, crowdfunding email. They try to pick up media attention on it so they can then get some juice out of it, Excitement too. Yeah. I mean, all things that come along with enthusiasm, and boosting enthusiasm. But ultimately, most of these campaigns, this is one of the saddest things about what I do and why I don't like to do the political element of polling. You guys may be surprised to learn that's not even, when it comes to survey research of any kind, that's not even my favorite at all. I think it's my least favorite at this point. It's just a totally different animal. There are so many other interesting things that we do at Big Data Poll where political stuff is really rather quite boring at this point. And then also, it's not just that it's boring. It's not the rest of the world. Like, I am trying to be accurate. Okay? I like to work with, if a campaign cares about accuracy and you can use it in a strategic way, I like that. And that's interesting. And then I get really, really involved. I can tell people see the value in data and what it is for strategy. Unfortunately, most times people just are like, can you give me 2 or 3 sentences that I can put into an email? Right? That's what they're trying to do. Now, some polls doesn't mean you should discount all internal polling. You shouldn't, especially presidential polling. They want to be right. They want to be right. I will say this, though. I'm with Robert Barnes 100%. Donald Trump's pollster is not the right person to be polling for Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I know he's got a lot of friends, too, and that is going to hurt me. But I don't give a damn, okay? Because I'm not financially dependent on their circles, so I can say whatever I want, and I would say whatever I want anyway. They can kiss my rosy red, But he is somebody who has filled up Benjamin Netanyahu's head with BS. Some of these races that Netanyahu almost lost or had a really hard time in, by filling Benjamin Netanyahu's head with ideas of, Likud just needs to talk about security. That's it. People don't care in Israel. That's BS. Telling Benjamin Netanyahu that he doesn't have tight races on his hand, when in fact he's got the guy right up his butt. Telling candidates in Florida, and this is why I'm being specific, just in case they want to be funny, telling candidates in Florida that they're ahead when they are not. All right. See, we've been on the other side of the race from each other. And someone like me, I will tell my client, look, we're behind. We're behind. Everybody in the primary, whether you win the primary or not, we're all behind. It's an uphill battle. And then I'll see something in Politico where he's leaking to Mark Caputo, in Politico saying like, we got a 6-point lead on her. It was crap. It was a total farce. It was never true. Marie Salazar never led that race. And in fact, Angie Chirino was about 2 points better than her because of name recognition.
She would have won.
But she had a shot. If they would have worked with her, if she would have had money, she had a chance, because for people who don't know, her father's like a famous Cuban singer. If they would have molded her into something, like not molded, make or fake. I don't mean that. You can work with people and make them more polished around the edges. Marie Salazar was a joke, seen as a journalist. Nobody likes journalists. The journalism is becoming like the new lawyer, the scumbag class, serious. That's how they're viewed. And he's over there pumping Maria Salazar's head with garbage about how we're the strongest candidate in the race, leaks to Politico in an effort to hurt fundraising. Mark, he's lying. Here's my polling. We're down. We're all down. We're going to lose, I'm that kind of an ass. That's why they hate me, because, I'll do that. I'll talk to the liberal at Politico to tell them he's lying to you, that's just the kind of guy I am. And that kind of person should not be in the president's ear. It just shouldn't be. It's the thing he wrote the other day, Laura. What did Trump hired him to write that comment about how media polling is fake? If he was to release his own data, and I mean detailed data, not the crap he puts out in PDF files. I'm talking about detailed data. If he would do that, then I could see writing up something being critical of the methodology of other big media polls. But all he did was write like a pay for pounce, 2-3 paragraphs on why the media polling is wrong. I just don't think that was legit. It's just, you shouldn't, like a good pollster would have said, you know what, Mr. President, I know what you want me to do, but I think it's probably best if, we conduct some polling and we can put out our own polling and we can put it forward and we could say, all right, I think I'm right. They're wrong. Here are the reasons why. That was like, I don't know, like the political polling equivalent of a political smear. Believe me, he also told Eric Cantor that Dave Bratt was not a threat to him. You remember that?
Yeah.
We knew Dave Bratt was going to win. We had him up 7 points, and we knew it. And he was telling Eric Cantor that Eric Cantor was double digits ahead of him. And he wasn't. And he lost by 8 points or something, right?
But to me,
Hold on, let me plug you in here.
Sorry. But to me, what I'm thinking is that Donald Trump would probably appreciate. No? You don't think he would appreciate it more?
I'm not going there.
To have the truth?
Oh,
That's what I'm talking
appreciate
about.
somewhere else.
Calm down, simmer down.
I'm like,
I'm
no,
just
don't
saying.
do that.
I mean, as a person who's running, I would want to know the truth. And so therefore I could go behind myself and tackle those places that I'm not doing so well in, because now I have the truth on my side.
You know what, Laura? You know my general philosophy on that. I totally look. Donald Trump is can be, from all pretty much accounts, and be a little bit hard to tell bad news to, from what I hear, and some people tell me that it's not that.
What is he gonna do? Fire you? For
My general philosophy on this, hun, as you well know, is twofold. One, I really don't care. I'm going to tell them anyway. That's just what you should do. And number two, let's say if John really wants him to win, sometimes the best thing you could do for someone to help them succeed is to tell them when they're screwing up. It's called oh, thank you. She's like, listen, guys been together so long, you literally fill each other's. I'll like stress for a word, and she'll plug it in. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And generally speaking, I don't know, Laura. I don't know why they do that. I just don't. Same thing with Brad. He filled his head with a whole bunch of ridiculous nonsense too. I mean, look, if you're a Trump supporter, the good news is it does look like he is clearly putting on a show this week. And this could really be a turning point, because do I have this thing up here, Laura? This was Saturday. Okay. This was Saturday. No polling bounce, no betting odd bounce. This is a bad position to be in if Donald Trump has a good convention. Hun, my voice is shot. We have to bank the questions for the end of the day. All right. So listen, we'll be back 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll go over day 2. I hope you guys are pumped as much as we are. We love the conventions. The Democrat one was a little shocking to me, because I'm like, I can't believe they're not even going to try to make an argument. But they did. But we love this stuff. This is actually the fun part, or used to be the fun part of the silly season, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll be back 10 o'clock tomorrow. Somebody asked too, I don't know if you had this in the cache, but somebody asked whether or not when Barnes was going to be back on.
I did answer.
You did? Okay, just so
Friday.
And just so as a show announcement, guys, what are the odds will be on Friday at 2? And then I think he asked if we could switch it to Monday. I think, as moving forward, I think he's got a point there, because we'll be able to kind of recap this, what the feel is out of the weekend, each weekend from the head to head, who won the week, who's going to start off the week down, who's going to, it may work. So we were kicking that back and forth. And I think we will do Mondays going forward. But for right now, Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when what are the odds will be on. So not tomorrow, folks, not tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we'll be back with Inside the Numbers, all right? We'll go over the convention highlights tonight. The First Lady on tonight, folks, all right? Big night, all right? And then also, too, I'm telling you, watch the Alice Johnson speech. It could be a potential, like the dark horse version of convention speeches, all right? Uh-oh. All right, folks, don't forget to like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily on YouTube. We are like a snowball on YouTube, but we could definitely do a little bit better on Facebook. And the best way, of course, to support the show is to subscribe to peoplespunditdaily.com, which you could do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe, ppdnews.us/subscribe. All right, folks, we love you. All the best. See you back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love just for a little fun? I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.